Okay, so here we go. The series is a little bit out of order. I know that Rav Blau spoke last week about Sukkot, and I'm going to be diving in today with Yom Kippur. So just ignore the order. The fact is we're doing it all in Elul, and you can use it whenever you'd like. I want to spend a little time talking today and learning about Yom Kippur, but not Yom Kippur itself, but really Erev Yom Kippur. This comes right out of the Psukim of the Torah. I don't have a source sheet for you. I'm going to guide you along. The shir is being recorded, so if you want to go back and look up any of these, if you want to take notes, feel free, whatever works for you. But straight out in the Chumash, in Vayikra Perek Gimel, we have a description of Yom Kippur that starts off the way that you would more or less expect it. It's Pasuk Chavav. It says, Vaydaber Shema Moshe Le'emor, Ach be'asor lachodesh hashvi'i hazeh, Yom Kippurim hu, Mikra Kodesh yelachem, v'initim et nafshotechem. That Hashem said to Moshe, on the 10th of the 7th month, Tishrei being the 7th month, we start from Nisan as a people, and so Tishrei is the 7th month. On the 10th of the month, it's Yom Kippur, and it's a holiday, v'initim et nafshotechem. You will afflict your souls, your nefesh being the lower part of the soul. Basically, that's where we get the 5 inuyim. We don't eat and drink. We don't wear leather shoes on Yom Kippur, etc., etc., etc. I'm focusing right now on the eating part. So far, so good. Then goes on for a few psukim about the korbanot of Yom Kippur. All good. And then about 5 psukim later, it's pasuk lamed bet. It says Shabbat Shabbaton hu lachem. Yom Kippur is the Shabbat of all Shabbats. It's the Uber Shabbat. Great. You got the super Shabbat. V'yinitim et nafshotechem. You will, again, do inui. You will restrict or afflict your souls, your bodies. V'tish'a lachodesh, on the 9th of the month. Problematic. Me Erev ad Erev tishbatu shabbatchem. From evening till evening. So I get the evening till evening. That's the old classic, the Jewish day starts at night thing. So Yom Kippur starts at night. That I got that. And even to add on to Yom Kippur, we, if you notice, usually, fasts start really at the time of sunset. Yom Kippur, we actually add on a little time. Most shul calendars will list that the fast starts sometime slightly before even licht. So, what's going on there? We're adding on a little bit. But the idea that it says that you will do this on the 9th of the month is inherently problematic because we fast on the 10th, not on the 9th. So what do you make of that? So I didn't make up this question. The Gemara in Brachot, it's Chet Amud Bet. I know some of you did Brachot last year at night. I actually believe that Rav David, sitting next to me today, was learning out of a Gemara Brachot marked with one of your names. I'll allow you to decide if you know which one of you that is. But one of you left your Gemara Brachot. So Rav David is teaching out of it. And the Gemara Brachot on Chet Amud Bet says as follows. Tana le'chia bar Rav mi Difti. Chia bar Rav from Difti taught. That you will afflict yourselves, you will fast, etc. on the 9th of the month. Says, wait a second, says the Amora. Are we fasting on the 9th of the month? We fast on the 10th, not the 9th. Okay, so it says it's come to teach you something, which is that whoever eats and drinks on the 9th, we give them credit as if they fasted the 9th and the 10th. So it's interesting doubling, where by eating on the 9th and then fasting on the 10th, you now get to have credit as if you fasted 2 consecutive days, the 9th and the 10th. It's an odd reading. It's an interesting reading. Not exactly clear what that would be. Rashi kicks in on the spot. It says, my level of hakatuv, that the Torah we give you credit as if you fasted both. Rashi says, here's how you should read it. Prepare yourselves on the 9th of the month, on Erev Yom Kippur, on the 9th of the month, le'inui hamacharat, for the fast that is coming up the next day. If you prepare yourself on Erev Yom Kippur, I will see it, says Hashem, as if you are fasting that day as well. So you get double credit. Still, Rashi has not really explained why that should be. Like, what's the big deal about eating on Erev Yom Kippur? It seems a very obvious thing. If you know you're going to fast, a smart person eats beforehand. I still have memories of once having gotten, overtired and maybe a little bit sick in Camp Lavi many years ago on Erev Shiv Sar Tammuz. And I like had this whole plan to eat all these things that I had picked up, whatever, like to get ready for the fast. And I basically just fell asleep and had that awful feeling. It's a feeling that is worse than waking up at 4 a.m. and realizing you haven't davened Maariv and then just lying there thinking, what do I do now? Do I actually get up? Is waking up on the morning of a fast saying, oh shoot, I think I forgot to eat. So I had it, I did it, I got through the fast, I'm still here today, it all worked out. But it's normal that a person would make the effort to eat on Erev Tzom. So why is it significant that we should actually give you credit as if you fasted just because you ate the day before? Any normal person will do that. Leaving that question hanging, I would take you to the halacha for a moment. The Shulchan Aruch itself, in Siman Taf Reish Dalid, is a Seder Erev Yom Kippur. It's a very short Siman in Shulchan Aruch, what you do on Erev Yom Kippur. So this is as follows. Mitzvah lechol be'erev Yom Kippurim laharbot b'suda. It's a mitzvah to eat an Erev Yom Kippur and to make it a great meal. That's interesting. Laharbot b'suda, maybe make a lot of meals. Again, interesting that it's a mitzvah. It's not simply something you just have to do. The Ramah kicks in. You can't fast on it even if you had a bad dream and you want to have a tanit chalom. Not happening. So what happens if you took a neder that you would fast on that day? We'll come back to that in the Rambam shortly. The Mishnah Berurah tries to explain the very odd wording here. I'll walk you through it, but the truth is, I read the Mishnah Berurah over and over again. So I see what he's saying, and I'm not sure that it makes a difference. I mean, with all great respect to Mishnah Berurah, but like I really get reading, it's not really answering my question. It says mitzvah lechol. So he deals with the issue. He says, that you will afflict yourselves on the 9th. It should have said on the 9th of the month at night. Then you will start to afflict yourselves to fast until the next evening. From the fact that it also says, that it says instead, it doesn't say from the 9th, it says on the 9th. It sounds like you should fast on the 9th. But as we know, Yom Kippur is really on the 10th of the month. We have a tradition from Chazal that, on the contrary, mitzvah min Torah lechol be'erev Yom Kippur. It's actually a great idea. It's a mitzvah to eat on Yom Kippur. Hashem wanted to give us reward as if we had fasted on that day. That there's no comparison between a mitzvah that's like super easy and a mitzvah that has effort or pain or difficulty that goes with it. You have to invest into the mitzvah. The more you invest, the better it is. So, therefore, the Funtzara Agra quotes the Mishnah Perkei Avot that according to the difficulty comes the reward. Ilu kata b'tisha l'chodesh tochlu lo haya lanu schar ela k'makayim mitzvato ayidei achila. See, if it told you on the 9th of the month eat, says the Mishnah Berurah, then you would only get the reward for the actual. You would get the reward of somebody who did some eating. It refers to the eating in a language of fasting, saying that when you do this eating, it won't just be any plain old eating. This will be eating that it's as if you worked really, really hard for it. It's as if you got a fast. So it's to give you this merit as if you did this in a very difficult way. And then he goes on and says that if you have to limit your learning that day in order to have time to eat, great. So all the Mishnah Berurah has really done is take the same question, which is what in the world do the Gemara and Rashi mean that you get more merit for having eaten? He's just kind of explained it out, but not really, not really, I think, done anything particularly new with it. So take you to the next step. The next step is the Rambam. It's in Hilchot Nedarim Perek Gimel Halacha Tet. Rambam says that if a person takes a neder, takes a vow, and that vow is that they're going to fast on Shabbos. You're not supposed to do that. Let's say you do. Hanoder sheyatzum b'Shabbat o b'Yom chayav latzum. If you take such a vow, you actually have to fast on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. Shouldn't do it, but if you did, you're bound by that vow. Shehanidarim chalim al divrei mitzvah kosher b'yanu. He says, listen, such a vow is really it's legally applicable, and so now you're stuck. So too, if somebody said, I'm going to fast every Sunday or every Tuesday, kol yamav, his whole life, Upaga bo yom zeh v'arehu yom tov or erev Yom Kippurim. And it happens to be that that date is Yantif or is Erev Yom Kippur, you would in fact have to fast that day. And he goes on and says, very interesting exception. He says if Purim fell out then you really would have to find a way to get out of the fast, because since Purim is D'Rabbanan, we don't want it to be treated lightly, so we give it extra enforcement. But all these other things, so you fast if you have to. Now that implies, and the Kesef Mishnah, who's written by by Yosef Karo, the same author as the Shulchan Aruch and the Beit Yosef, the Kesef Mishnah says, the way that the Rambam has grouped this, he says if you take a vow that you're going to fast on Shabbat, Yom Tov, Erev Yom Kippur, etc., you have to fast. Oh, but Purim is a separate category, and so is Hanukkah. Implies that it is a biblical mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. And he's a little bit puzzled by that. He says, I thought that maybe that was just an asmachta, just sort of like a hint in the Torah giving you a little support for eating. Because I'm very surprised to hear that the Rambam would consider this a biblical mitzvah. Okay, that's one side. The Kesef Mishnah holds that this pasuk here is really, it's not a biblical, he has trouble saying it's a biblical mitzvah. He says, Rambam seems to think so, but I have difficulty with that. He goes on a bit. In the Magen Avraham, though, takes it a different way. He says, Aval Erev Yom Kippurim, Mukach Shehu de Orayta, Hayal Mikra. He says, no, this is a biblical mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. Okay, so what do we do with this? So here's where we start to get to a little bit in the way of answers. Before I actually get to answers, I'm just going to check the chat box, see if anybody has anything in that I need to see. No, great, we're rocking and rolling. Either you are totally getting it, you don't know how to use the chat, or you're just so confused you're not even bothering. So we'll see. So moving into the next stage. The next stage is a Rashi in Yoma. It's Hey Aleph Amud Bet. The Rashi there says, we had the Rashi earlier that said, well, you get reward. The Rashi here says, V'hachi mashma kra v'initem betisha, klomar hatkein atzmecha betisha, shetucha lihitanot ba'asara. So now we start to get into a little bit of an analysis of why it is important. So Rashi says, well, the preparations on the 9th are what allow you to be able to fast on the 10th. So according to that logic, the reason the 9th is considered a significant day, a day that might have a biblical mitzvah to eat, is that this isn't your, Shiva Sar B'Tammuz in camp where, okay, if you need to, it's a morning to night fast, but actually it's a 25-hour fast. It can be hot. It's a lot to ask. It's the extra hours. And therefore, it's really not reasonable to expect somebody to be able to make it through the fast without having eaten and prepared in advance. And therefore, all the preparation that you do is a part of that mitzvah. Some of you have studied Masechet Sukkah. There's this question as to whether there is actually a mitzvah to build a sukkah. The prevailing opinion is that there is not. It's a mitzvah to sit in a sukkah, to eat in a sukkah, to be in a sukkah. However, you do need a sukkah to go to. So if you have one on campus, great. If anybody ever wants directions, I once built a camping sukkah. I was desperate to get out of Manhattan. Needed to get somewhere with a little greenery and was off for Sukkot. So I basically got some very light wood, figured out how to make something very light that rolled up. I didn't have, as a college student, the means available to be able to buy one of those pop-up sukkahs. So I made something that could attach to my backpack, went into central Pennsylvania. There's some fabulous parks there. And the world is your schach when you're camping. So I just went around picking up like leaves and branches. It was the most beautiful sukkah I think I was ever in, and loved it. That was great. But was there a mitzvah for me to build it per se? Not necessarily. I just need a sukkah. So if you've got one, great. If you need some directions for one on campus, be in touch. Wonderful. I'll be honest, it's going to look a little bit weird, but we all know that sitting in a sukkah anywhere on campus probably looks weird anyway. So welcome to being a Jew. In any event, that's a question as to whether there's a mitzvah there to prepare. This Shita of Rashi would seem to indicate that actually the eating is part of the preparation to fast. It's a necessary piece. And therefore, what you're doing when you eat on Erev Yom Kippur is a part of the mitzvah of fasting. And so according to Rashi, that's why we have a mitzvah here. That's why it says on the 9th. You'll fast, you're as if fasting on the 9th. Why? It's the eating on the 9th that makes the fasting possible. Great. The weakness, I would say, to Rashi's approach, there are really two that come to mind. One is that it does happen that people fail to eat a whole lot the day before, and yet they are still able to fast. So it's not clear that you absolutely need to. I think you can go 3 days without water, you can go a month without food. It's not necessarily going to do anything to you if you didn't eat a lot on the night. The second thing is that, wait, there was a second thing. Hold on a second. Yes, it works on the assumption that the preparation for a mitzvah is in fact a part of the mitzvah itself. That's not something that we always assume, as I mentioned, like by sukkah. Okay, the Rosh has a variation on Rashi. It's Rosh and Yoma. It's 8th parak, Simin Chafbet. The Rosh there says that, well, Hashem loves us and wants us to not be a holiday of suffering, and so basically has given us a commandment. Given us a commandment to eat, so that we should be able to, it's going to sound weird, but enjoy Yom Kippur. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. I want to do a piece of Yom Kippur drush. Can't do a halacha share without something about Yom Kippur that's a little more personally meaningful. So the notion that you would go in and just dread Yom Kippur. This is a day, and harken back to the Mishnah Brewer that said that you can reduce your learning on Erev Yom Kippur, reduce your other activities to focus on eating. The idea is eat, be in really, really good shape so that when you get to Yom Kippur, you're able to focus and you're not spending all the time terrified of the fast because you ate quite well beforehand. And note that sometimes that backfires. As a shul rabbi, the hardest drashot of the year, I thought, were Pesach morning, and I have a number of colleagues who would agree to this. Pesach morning because everyone's exhausted, and Yom Kippur night because they're overfull. And when you watch a crowd of people who have all just eaten way too much and ate so late that they had to run to shul, so now they're like overfull and sweaty, it's a really unpleasant like setting. Then you're trying to like give them something meaningful, and they may or may not be able to actually focus on this and listen. So that's a difficulty. But the Rosh says that you're supposed to eat so that you'll feel better, and this way not be dreading Yom Kippur, but rather ready to embrace it. Okay. The Rosh is a Rishon. I'm a 21st century shul rabbi. What do I know? The Shari Tshuva of Rabbeinu Yonah brings 3 other approaches that I think start to get into a new dimension here. He says he talks about the day before eating. He says he says that actually what we're doing here is not just preparing for the fast. It's not a pragmatic preparation, but rather it is to show our joy. That leads into his second approach, which is Hashenit. He says, the Rabbeinu Yonah, it's Shar Daled, if you're looking for this. He says all other holidays have a Sudat Yantif. They have a meal of the Chag, a meal of the Yantif. You have your Rosh Hashanah meal, your Pesach Seder, your Sukkot meals. You're supposed to eat in the Sukkah. Great. Jewish holidays tend to be, the old joke about, they tried to kill us, they were not successful. Okay, great, let's go eat. That's all the Jewish holidays. So it doesn't have to be that they tried to kill us, but they all pretty much revolve around some food aspect. And so since all the other holidays have a Yantif meal, a special meal, as part of how we mark a celebratory event, what do you do for Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur does not have a celebratory meal. Says Rabbi Yonah, oh, sure it does. It's Erev Yom Kippur. He said, instead of thinking about Yom Kippur as one day, and the food beforehand is simply to prepare for it so that your stomach will be ready, how about looking at Yom Kippur as really 2 days, and the Yom Tov meal of Yom Kippur is had on the 9th, Erev Yom Kippur, and then the fast is the next day. This is where our Yantif meal has gone. Finally, he has a third approach. He says, in order to make us strong for the davening. Now, what Rabbeinu Yonah has done is insert another idea. This is more than just being prepared, or even being prepared so we can daven well, even being prepared and feeling loved and happy. This is actually a Yantif meal. That has implications that we'll come back to very shortly. The Torah Tamima takes the opposite approach from the Rosh. It's worth noting. This is Torah Tamima on those psukim. It's Vayikra Chaf Gimel. The Torah Tamima suggests that when you eat a lot, he doesn't use these words, but basically you expand your stomach. Your stomach is expecting more food. So I personally find that, for example, Tzom Gedalia, right after Rosh Hashanah, since I don't usually eat in the morning of Rosh Hashanah, and davening goes long, so I don't eat till 1, 2, 3 o'clock. The next day, after 2 days of doing that, the third of Tishrei, which is not so Gedaya, I tend to find very easy because my body's gotten used to this thing of not expecting any food until 3 p.m. When I see a fast coming up, like Tisha B'Av, Shiva Sefer Tammuz, I usually start to cut down on food, especially in the mornings, a few days before. My body's not expecting it. That's the argument of the Torah Tanima, is your body's not expecting it, and therefore it makes the morning easier, great, and then you eat in the afternoon. Torah Tanima says that what's going on here is that we're commanded to eat on Erev Yom Kippur opposite the Rosh, not to make it easier, but actually to make it harder. So the good news for the Torah Tanima is the strength here is that it really fits very well into the Gemara that says that it will be treated as if you fasted both days. Because what you do is you make the fast harder by giving your body the expectation of quite a bit of food, and then it's there one day and not there the next. Interesting. We have time for a story? Quick story. I'm sorry, it's not on Yom Kippur, but it does. It just hit into this idea of things that you expect you don't expect. Well, we should be able to finish in good time. You know what? No. Yes, I will tell a story. At the very end of last year, I flew to California for a fundraiser at the local high school, and I was on the ground for less than 30 hours. It was just fly in, show up, get out of there. Doing a favor for a friend. And that friend who flew me in and the whole fundraiser was flying me on miles and was very, very kind. And for the way back, bumped me up to first class. Now, I don't know that I'm ever going to fly first class again. If you ever have the opportunity, wow. Wow. You walk in, Mr. Dardick, your seat is over here. And they bring me a beer while I'm sitting on the runway, and chocolates and nuts. And the seat goes back, and my choice of newspapers. And they're giving me my choice of 3 different gourmet entrees for dinner. And then all these desserts. And I'm like, I can't eat the desserts, I'm so full. So the flight attendant said, well, why don't you just have a little bit of each of them? Right? Good wines, exquisite. They handed me a pair of pajamas. I'm like, do people wear these? They said, no, people wear these. Do you want to go put them on? I'm like, I don't know, wear pajamas on the plane. So I go, they make up my bed. The seat goes horizontal. They put on a mattress and a sheet. This is extraordinary. I'm being waited on hand and foot. The next day, I land that night. I go home. I get a few hours sleep. I have to get up and go join the Tzfat Tziul. So I'm racing up to get to the bus station. I get to the bus station. Bus door opens and says, we're full, and drives on. Like, okay, there's another one in 10 minutes. That's the last one for another 5 hours. I got to get on this bus. Bus door opens. He says, we're full. I said, please, I have to go. He says, but Amida, you can get on standing. So I throw my bag under the bus because I'm afraid that if I take it on the bus, he's going to say, no, you're taking up too much space and kick me off. I get on. The bus is all Hasidim and me. The front half of the bus is Hasidic men. The back half of the bus is Hasidic women. I am at the border, and I'm standing for 3.5 hours to get to the spot. It's hot. I tried to sit down on the floor. I can't really sit for very long because people keep moving up front to hand their babies to their husbands, and it's dusty, and I just have to keep getting up. I feel like a shmata. When I sit on the floor, the chassid who's sitting next to me took the liberty of taking off his shoes. So I've got that wafting by me. I'm standing. I haven't eaten breakfast. My food is under the bus. My Gemara is under the bus. My water's under the bus. The bus driver accused me of not paying. And I said, wow, it's an amazing thing. Yesterday, I was being treated like a king. Food and drink and wine and a bed and pajamas and everything I could want. 16 hours later, I'm like this total shmata on the bus. The only non-chassid there, I don't even have a seat. I can't sit. I can't stand. I've got the smell of his socks. People are accusing me of stuff. You know what it goes to show? You never know. One day you're up. One day you're down. Enjoy it while you're up. Be ready for the ride. Ride it along. In any event, point is, you go from one day to the other. It's a complete, it's night and day, says Torah Tanima. Your body is expecting one thing on one day. The next day is really hard. Okay, so that brings me to a last couple of points and one short bit of hashkafa, which is a nafkamina here. There's a practical difference. The question, for example, if in a halacha, so women are not required to do time-bound positive mitzvot. Their mitzvah to say shesvan grama. Have the opportunity, but no obligation. Okay, so what do we make of this mitzvah of eating on Erev Yom Kippur? If you say that it is, it's simply a mitzvah of preparation. At this time, you need to prepare for Yom Kippur. Then in theory, a woman who decides that she doesn't want to eat much or frankly doesn't want to eat specific foods would be pater. Same thing if you say that it's just a preparation, eat whatever you want. If you hold, however, that this is the Sudat mitzvah of Yantif. So women are chayiv in Yom Kippur. That means they now have a Sudat mitzvah. They A, have to eat, and B, it would suggest that one should potentially be eating bread at the Sudat Mafseket. And that is it's a halakhic question. The Mincha Chinuch says you don't have to eat bread, you can eat whatever you want. Others suggest that you should. The basis of suggesting that you should eat bread before the fast would be built upon the idea that this is actually a Yantif mitzvah. And so it's the mitzvah of the Suda, the meal of Yantif. And so going back to our beginning, when the Torah tells us that you will fast on the 9th, and then we say, well, the fasting on the 9th is like fasting on the 10th, eating on the 9th is like fasting on the 9th. So what we come out with is a series of possibilities. It may be practical, it gets you ready. It may be that it makes it easier and more pleasant so you can focus on the 10th. It may be that it actually makes it harder, so that it's as if you have fasted 2 days and you get extra reward here. Or it may be something completely different. It has nothing to do with the fast, but rather with the fact that since it's a fast, it has displaced the meal of Yantif. All Yantifs have a celebratory meal. That celebratory meal is the Suda Mafseket beforehand. Okay, I'm going to close off with a short, just hashkafic thought to send you towards the Yom Noraim, which is the Mishnah in the 4th chapter of Tanis tells us that Yom Kippur is one of the 2 happiest days of the year. Now it's interesting because the Torah tells us the Samachta b'chagecha about Sukkot. Sukkot is happy. Yom Kippur is meaningful. Yom Kippur is solemn. Yom Kippur as happy is a little bit of a seemingly a stretch. So I've heard before people say, well, think about it. You can, if Yom Kippur is so happy, because imagine the fact that no matter what you've done, whatever mistakes you've made, you can be forgiven. That's a joyous feeling. And I think there is something very real to that. I'd like to take it in a slightly different direction, which I've mentioned, I think, to a few of you over time, but it speaks to me, which is the notion that our relationship with Hashem is a very personal relationship. Now, there is something, one of the great maladies of, I think, adolescence and, a little bit after, is the sense of loneliness. Soloveitchik in Lonely Man, I think, goes on at length about how painful it is to feel like nobody gets you. You try, you have friends, but it's really hard. The person can feel very lonely, very misunderstood, and isolated. And so what happens on Yom Kippur? We all know that there are parts of ourselves that we are not proud of and we're not comfortable with. If somebody knew, it would be humiliating. It's a bad feeling. I don't like that about myself. And there's a very special feeling. It's a little dance that we do when you meet somebody special. And you say to that person, you're getting to know them, you start to feel a little more comfortable. So we all do this little social dance. It could be with a friend, it could be a significant other, a potential significant other, where at a certain point we start to tell them a little something personal. We say, well, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but, and you tell them something, and they say, oh, that's cool. You go, really? Like, you're okay with that? And they go, oh, yeah. No, it's like they say, oh, me too. It's like, you too? Or like, oh, no, that's no big deal. Maybe they tell you something about themselves. There's a little dance. We sort of trade back and forth, and you start to expose some of your vulnerabilities, some other things, and you see that someone, you can trust them with your feelings, that they're okay with you, which is a very, very special feeling. To feel like somebody else got what you are and is willing to be your friend. They're not laughing at you. You're expecting them to laugh, but they don't. And it's this little intimate dance where we share things and tell us, like, I've never told anyone this, or this is so embarrassing, and they're cool with it. You start to feel like, wow, okay, I feel seen and I'm all right. Well, what do we do on Yom Kippur? We get up and we say, okay, Hashem, I can't believe I'm telling you this. You know what I did? I did this, and this, and this. And I'm not even really feeling that bad about it. And like, you're expecting the lightning strike, but nothing happens. And you say, all right, Hashem, there's some other stuff I did. I don't even like to think about this. I also this. And 25 hours go by, and we repeatedly confess all the stuff. We basically look in the mirror really, really hard and recognize all the things about ourselves that we don't like. And after all of that, after telling Hashem all of it, it ends. And actually, it's beautiful because the end of Ne'ilah doesn't have a full vidoy. Ne'ilah has like a partial vidoy, and then it just goes away because you've already said it. You've already said it. You've confessed all this stuff. You've been, exposed and vulnerable, and basically touched on everything that you feel is humiliating about yourself. You put it all out there, and Hashem didn't laugh at you. Hashem didn't reject you. Hashem didn't run away. Hashem didn't do anything. You're okay. You hit Ne'ilah. And you're just close, feeling close and davening. And the joy of Yom Kippur is to actually say, Hashem, you took a good look at me. Now, we all know intellectually Hashem knows everything about us. But Hashem, you took a full, complete look at me. And you know what? I'm working on it. I know I have things to work on, but you're okay. You're okay. And maybe I can be okay. That's a beautiful feeling, to really feel seen and still loved. You still love me after all of that is an incredible feeling. And so I think that when we talk about Yom Kippur being a day of joy, there is such exquisite joy in feeling that someone, I'll do the ultimate one, someone truly, truly saw me and loved me. That's beautiful. Okay, I see there's a little bit of chat going on here. Here we go. Hi. Are there meals during other Chagim, Mitzvot, and Minhagim? All the Yantif meals are mitzvot. Having meals, you have to have, Shabbos you have to have 3, but Yantifs are 2 meals, night and day. Purim Suda is a mitzvah, so yes, the answer is they are pretty much mitzvot. Does kapara mean forgiveness? What would the practice be kapara mechila? Interesting. Kapara, the way I understood it, is mechila is forgiveness. Kapara is the kind of forgiveness, lechaper is to cover over. Think about the kaporet on the aron, the cover of the aron in the Beit HaMikdash in the temple. So kapara is the kind of forgiveness that not only forgives, but it actually covers over as if you don't even see it anymore. It's been completely wiped out. So slicha is the lowest level, mechila is higher, and kapara is like cover over Hashem as if it never even existed. Okay, Josh M. from Harvard asks, what is the source for 2 versus 3 on Yantif versus Shabbat? That is a great question, Josh, that I should know the answer to, and I don't offhand. But give me a chance to get back to you. So I guess I'll send it probably Corey's way. Very good. So I'm going to wish, oh wait, we got another one coming in. I am not answering that one, but I love you too, David. Okay, great. So wishing everyone a fabulous Yantif, a meaningful Yantif, and a great beginning of the school year. Be in touch and have a great day. Take care.